Welcome back to IndieFaith Podcast. You're here with Jules and Mary, and we are on episode 37. How are you, cuz?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
It's funny, I always ask you this question before we record, and now I'm asking it while we're recording.
Oh, the cameras are over, just like, yes,
I didn't know how you were, but how are you?
I'm good, thanks, cuz. How are you going?
Yeah. Like, this weather, I've been it's like sick one week, and then I'm fine for like a few days, and then sick again, and then fine a few days. Yeah, and I've noticed because my nose is blocked, so I'm very nasally as well. And I noticed that in the last episode. I was like, "What the hell do I sound like that?" Sounds like I'm lisping.
Oh, yeah. Because I can still hear you clearly, and I know what you're saying, so it's not too bad.
Yeah. All right. So we're switching things up this week. So we don't have a pop topic because our main topic is pretty big.
I think so.
This one, our main topic is why do poly men date white women? And because of that, we knew it was going to take the full duration of the episode. And also, what's the point of talking about a pop topic when everyone just wants to know about the main topic?
The main one, especially this particular one. So I was like, yeah, I agree, cuz let's not have a pop topic this week too.
So to give a bit of context, so I don't know if this is where it started, but Jawila Blakely, so she's a NZ actress. She's in Tiona's Wedding. She's also in the recent Power Rangers, I think. She has her own show in New Zealand, and she actually raised this question on her panel. And they were, they had Oscar Kitely, and a few other people on there. And then after that, I seen that the Cover Club podcast did an episode on this topic. So kind of like a reaction to the Jawila Blakely episode. And then after that on TikTok, so he put up his opinions and all that, and then on TikTok there was just a lot of clips all over my feed hating on this guy, and also not they're also raising the topic as well separately as well to the situation.
But why did he get so much hate for it?
Because of his views, his answers of why he thought poly men date white women, and it's a very controversial topic. So, and especially coming from a poly man, and I'm sure most of the hate was also by poly women. But everyone had everyone had fair points as well. I think someone from Coconut TV as well reacted to one of his comments that he said. But yeah, and then I saw other TikTokers do videos on this very topic. So yeah, it's a lot of seems one-sided. A lot of the responses to that question. Anyway, so I wanted to raise this as a topic for us, but I wanted to try something different. So on Instagram and Facebook, we put a poll out because I wanted it to be fair before raising our opinions. Because I noticed with a lot of these videos, it was just going off a lot of their own emotions. And so I wanted to put it out there, let everybody share their thoughts, also do a tally of what people thought, but also I didn't want to ask why do poly men date white women, because that's already accepting that we all agree that they do. So I wanted to bring it back and ask if people actually agree with that statement, that poly men date white, that poly men, especially successful ones, only date white women. I tell you what, the the results and responses
So interesting.
definitely changed the game for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're gonna go through the results from that poll. Also, just to mention that we ran this poll like for 2 days just to try and get as many responses as we could. So yeah, so the poll results to the statement of
Why do
poly men, especially successful ones, only date white women.
Yeah. So that's what you put up on our socials, which is really good because when I saw it, I was like, "Oh crap!" But yeah. So as you said, the statement was poly men, especially successful ones, only date white women. Now there was a 47%, like that 47% of people said they agree with that statement, and 53% of people disagreed with that statement. We did get responses for both sort of sides. Responses for the agree side. So they said one of them was so many factors to consider, but I would say it starts from birth. Another response was poly women remind them of the life they try to escape, especially men who prefer the white man's way. And another response was proximity to whiteness can be seen as an achievement. So that's all in the agree side, 43%. The disagree side, we did get a response, and they said, I feel that there are many mixed and Polynesian couples out there. I think for me, I'm quite mixed on this, but don't agree. I find a lot of the issues would come with the Palangi partner, as in their attitude towards Polynesian men. Oh, excuse me, Polynesian women. I must also say, us Polynesians, some of us like to gatekeep traditions and customs and even men. For me personally, I may not have made any sense, but each to their own. I think the ones who are successful that date white women usually don't last long. Ooh. Okay, and the other response for that as well was, I'm on the fence. I'm not sure if it's the success of the man or the lack of resilience. So that's the 53% of people who disagreed. Those were their responses. And it was so fun. You know what I found the most funny about this is that we were both not in agreement. So you were for the agree side, and I was for the disagree.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like so interesting to see,
Yeah.
like, I mean, thanks to everybody who it was mostly Instagram, Facebook, like
Yeah, not many people. I find that the a lot of the, I think it's an age thing.
yeah.
So like our the our parents and them, they're more on the Facebook side now, whereas the ones who are our age and younger, they're more on Instagram and everything and TikTok.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I didn't get any responses on Facebook, but yeah. It was really really interesting. But yeah, thank you to all those that responded and voted. Like it was, yeah, it was so cool to see that,
Yeah.
like see the results, and also to give that opportunity for other people to like let us know. And what was good about it is that like just seeing that just shows that the diversity of how we look at this particular topic.
Yeah.
What did you think about the poll results?
I'm gonna be honest. I thought it was pretty accurate in the sense of like I knew it wasn't gonna be so one sided. Like we said, the results were 47% agreed, 53% disagreed. So that's pretty close. I think it was
Yeah.
only by like one or two people.
Yeah.
Like in the whole like of the actual poll. So I wasn't surprised by that number, but I was surprised by different responses. Because I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Especially the agree side. Like I didn't think there would be those sorts of responses because again, I was more for the disagree side. What did you think about it? Because
Yeah, I found it so interesting because based on the TikTok videos and all the other people's responses on it, I thought we'd get a lot more that agree
oh wow,
with that statement because that's basically the general opinion that's
yeah,
been on TikTok and that. Yeah. And then just to see the results, it was so shocking.
yeah,
Like it was so interesting that it was almost 50-50.
oh okay.
And like and funny enough, like the people that disagreed, with the statement. Like 70% of them, 70% of them that disagreed were women, Pacific Islander women, which was so surprising to me.
Yeah.
Like that. But it's interesting because like it seems that most Pacifica women don't even agree that most poly men date white women. So like so now like we have the results in mind. Like it's it kind of changes the game for the question, why do poly men date white women?
Yeah.
So it's like, but like I guess now we have the result in mind. So now let's start the topic off with, why do poly men, especially successful ones, only date white women, or let's say non-poly women? So my first question to you guys is, based on like observations and feedback from friends and family, what do they think, or what did they think? Because we also reached out to people around us as well, to ask, but this time to ask why they think that poly men only date white women.
I think for me, I wish I had come across someone who agreed with the statement. With the statement in general that, poly men, especially successful ones, only date white women. Because when I had said that to a few of my friends and family members, they were like, no. A lot of them said no. So I wasn't sure how I can sort of say the why or answer the why, because they were more on the disagree. And the reason why it was disagreed is because if we really think about it, and I'm stealing one of the, what they said, if you think about it, we're not actually in a Polynesian country. And what I mean by that is we're not in Samoa, right? We're in a country that's predominantly, well, I think it's predominantly white, but there are multiple cultures within this one particular country, but there's only a tiny percentage of that that's Polynesian. So for me, it's not that they only date white women. For me, it's, we live in a country where we're only a minority in this big country. So we obviously, we come across different people who have different ethnicities, different backgrounds, and different people. So I feel like that's why I couldn't answer the why, because I'm like, we live in a country where if we lived in Samoa, right, and all the men, like as soon as a white person comes, like a white woman came to Samoa and they married that white woman, and no one wanted any of us Samoan women, then I'd be like, okay, why? But because we live in a country where, again, there's only a small percentage of us that live here, it's hard for me to think of the why, because from what I can see, I'm basing it on where I'm from and my surroundings, and from what I see. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
Well, what do you see, or what do they see though?
So I think they see it like, it's not a matter of they only go for white women. It's one of those, we go for what we're interested in, what we're compatible with, what we're what we get along with, who we have good vibes from, and everything like that. It's not so much a race thing, which was really surprising to me, because I think we grew up with that sort of mentality too. Like I remember growing up and hearing things like, they only go for balangis. The men at church only go for balangis. Like our cousins and brothers and uncles only go for balangis. But I didn't see it as much as I saw how there were more people who went for islanders, and like from where I'm from. That's just what I thought at the time when I was younger. It's really now that we're getting older, where like, especially us, our sort of generation, where we obviously go for other people who aren't Polynesian. But there was that. And then my own opinion was like, when I thought about it, especially the successful men only go for white women, I was thinking about it really hard, because I'm like, so The Rock is like probably to me the most well-known Polynesian in the world. Like I feel like he obviously helped put us on the map. I'm pretty sure people knew of Islanders and Polynesians, but I feel like he's the number one people know who he is. You tell anyone, and they're like, "Yeah, we know who that is." Um, and his first wife was a Spanish lady, and then you have like people like Jason Momoa, like, he was with Lisa Bonet, who's obviously like, African American, and obviously she's got other mixes in her too. So there's just, I think that's where I was with the question. But what did you find, Kaz, when you were like asking family members and friends, or what did you, are you still in the I'm agreeing to this sort of statement? Like, you still feel that way?
Um, I'll say what the people around me,
Okay.
the people that I
Yeah.
asked, what their responses were, but a lot of them, I guess they didn't really say whether they agreed with the statement or
Okay.
not. It was more that they were just going off the question, why do they think
Okay.
polymen, especially successful ones, date white women? Um, but most of the people that I did ask are not with someone anyway,
Yeah.
so um, but their responses were, so it started off with the usual. So it was, the usual, might be related.
Oh yeah.
Some Pacific women, some Pacifica women, may be stronger than the guy. That was one.
Yeah.
Uh, they have a lot of cousins that'll try and fight me.
I want to know who said that. Let me know.
And then, and then, then it went a bit deeper than that. So I think those ones are just the blanket statements that
Right.
a lot of guys say, especially the might be related one. But then, the deeper responses were, one said, I think naturally we just look outside of our own kind because maybe subconsciously we try and break tradition,
Mm,
which has its costs and benefits. And then another one said, maybe because majority of fob guys do sport and majority of fob girls aren't active. And then the other one was, didn't want to deal with their parents or siblings.
yeah.
And then the other one is, back in high school, there weren't many islanders, so the few that were stuck together and saw each
Mm,
other, the ones that were stuck together only saw each other as siblings,
right. Okay.
so they wouldn't date
Yeah.
them. Um, and the other one was, I was attracted to other ethnicities because it was kind of an opposite direction from myself and our culture. Um, and then the other one, a lot of Pacific women were too loud.
I can take that. I agree with that.
And then the other one was, the last one was, yeah, pretty much parents too
Yeah.
strict. Were too strict. That so yeah, it was interesting to see that, and I from the TikTok responses, a lot of those responses were pretty much what was said as well on TikTok, but um yeah, the the other responses that I saw there was like, they just, it's more just wanting to be like what exactly what you said. They're in a Western country, so they're exposed to other ethnicities, which is why they're, like, to them it's something that's unfamiliar, and something that's unfamiliar, it's more
Mm,
exciting, so that's why they go for a lot of other ethnics or
yeah.
white women, than a poly woman. Um, but my own like observation, and I think I mentioned this before in another episode, but I went to a sports
Yeah.
school, and a lot of the islanders there, they went out with, they did like, they most of them actually dated other like other ethnicities, and like, for me as a Pacifica girl at the time, it was like I was just invisible
Mhm.
to them. Um, so it was like, it did make me feel, ugly, because like, for me, it's like I already knew that there's those stereotypes right out there that Islander girls are they're big, they're butch, they're loud, um, and like I knew I didn't stand a chance with like a white boy or other
Okay.
ethnicities. But I thought I might have a chance with Pacifica boys because we're familiar with each other, but not knowing that they're not
Okay.
into that. They're into like they see all these other girls and they're a lot more um in a nicer way physically
Mm.
appealing than than what the stereotype is. Yeah, so I experienced a lot of that, and um for the successful men part, I was looking more at footy players, like
Mhm.
NRL union players, and I do see a lot more of them with white women than I do with
Oh
poly
yeah.
women. If that makes sense. And I know The Rock was like with but I was like, I can't base successful poly men just on The Rock.
True. See, I see a lot of NRL players
But
too with like I think we like yeah, I see a lot of them with polys though as well. So I think
mm,
yeah, I think
yeah,
we're both we both have different views with this, which is good
mm,
because usually when we agree, we're just like yeah, we agree.
yeah. But like, just sorry, like with the next question, I we already touched on it, but like, what are your thoughts, on the why polymen date
My own like thoughts are
outside?
because I think there's a lot of factors. There's so many factors, but I don't think it's like anything.
Mm,
I personally don't feel like it's anything to do with them not wanting an island girl. I suppose maybe that's just me. But I think the why would probably be like some of the similar answers that you said that other people had, where it's they might be related, um, the family side of things. Because I feel like once they know, like a lot of Balinese I know, men and women, they see islanders as very family oriented, very close, very tight knit, very for the family. And then when they get involved with someone who's in like with someone who is a Polynesian, they realize that there are sides where it's like, oh my gosh, what have I got myself into, like and stuff like that. But from a dude's perspective, it's just easier.
yeah.
It's just not just that it's easier, but also like what's it called? They would prefer to just do something that's not within the norm. I think based on how they grew up and based how how the home life was, and stuff like that, some of them gravitate towards anything else because home was either too difficult or it was a broken home or it just wasn't what they wanted. So anything that reminds
Mm,
them of that sort of thing isn't something that they want in their future. So I think that might
yeah.
be a reason. I did ask my brothers a while ago, why they only go for bilingual women. Um, one of my brothers got a bit insulted because they were like, I don't just go for
Jeez.
bilingual women, like because I do have I have a brother who's very much into bilingual women.
Yeah.
And then I have other brothers who are also into bilingual women, but also any sort of nationality. So it was interesting to see that one of my brothers was like, it's just his preference. He gets along better with them. He can actually talk to them. Um, like it's just a preference for him.
Yeah.
He finds them more attractive. He's just always wanted like gravitated towards bilingual women. Whereas my other brother, who was a bit like, I didn't know that. I honestly thought they were only into bilingual women.
Mm,
They were like, no, I'm interested in anyone, like who has a brain, who's kind, who's like there's not really a preference. And then I have the other brother who's mainly into poly women.
Wow.
So it's all a bit different, but all the answers are just so the brother who's more into Palangi women is he did explain that, you know, it is one of those, not only is the preference, but you know, he's just never been into island women because I think he looks at them like family. Like when he thinks of island women, he thinks of, you know, his mom, his sisters, his cousins. That's how he feels.
Just like the response we got today as well in the poll.
Yeah. But for me personally, I think they go for Bali women because, you know, a lot of them, I'm not trying to talk down on us, you know, poly girls. We are loud.
Hmm.
Like I'm loud. We are loud. We can be quite aggressive. Um, we can be quite, I'm not saying all poly women, I'm just saying like what I grew up with, there are a lot of aggressive gingers, like girls, you know, a lot of girls who come off very, you know, they will fight you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes a poly boy just doesn't want that. They don't want to deal with that, and that's fine. Um, I think another reason is because we are really for the family,
Mm.
us poly girls. So they know if they get into it with a poly girl, not only do they have their family stuff, but they now have their wife's, their Polynesian wife's family stuff, and some might not want that.
Mm.
Um, you know, like the money side of things, the love side of things. The I think for them it's like, at least if I have a palangi king, it's just my family.
Yeah.
It's just my family's issues, and you know I'll probably argue with and it's easier for him to. I feel like it's also easier for him to be like, oh, my wife said no.
100%. Yeah.
My palangi wife, she said no.
Yeah.
So like obviously they're gonna be annoyed with that, the son, but the family are gonna really dislike his wife, and obviously he doesn't really want that, but rather than him cop it as bad, it might be easier for him to just say that, and they have come across women who are quite happy to be like, yeah,
Mm.
that's all right, I'm good with that, because you know our family comes first, kind of thing. And that's another thing I think, like I said before, is why they go for Palangi women, because us poly girls, we are for the family, no matter how many families we make, like our own family,
Yeah.
we still go back to our own family. So if they need help, or I'm not saying the sons don't, but majority of the time it is us
Yeah.
girls. Majority of the time it's us going to, you know, check in on our parents, it's us taking care of our parents, it's us not even having families, we stay with our
Mm.
parents, and the boys get to just, you know, they have free reign to do whatever they want. um, but I also, yeah, I think that's why poly men gravitate towards women who aren't Polynesian or aren't, yeah, that's just what I think.
Yeah. No, I agree with a lot of what you said. And it it's funny, like just going off some of the videos that I watched as well, a lot of them were from men that did the, you know, why poly men only date white women, and it was them sort of saying why they do. Um,
Yeah.
one video, I can't remember who it was, but like they actually say they're based in the US, and they say
Hmm.
over there, yeah, predominantly they say a lot of poly men do go for white women, and these are the reasons why. And that was
Hmm.
controversial as well. Like, so many islanders went in and attacked that guy. um, but it's just interesting to see, because then you marry that up with the poll that we did, and like I said,
Yeah.
70% of the people that disagreed were women. So
Yeah.
like for me, when I was looking at that, I was like, it did raise the question, um, like why was it 70% women that, you know, disagreed, and a lot of the videos that I'm seeing are from men, but some,
I agree with the
yeah,
statement.
and but then
Mm.
some of the men that like in the comments are going in defending Pacifica women.
Yeah.
And then it dawned on me, and I'm not saying this is the case, but it might be interesting to look at. Well, maybe the majority of men, or maybe the reason why we didn't have a larger population of men say they disagree with the statement is because they're too afraid to say they believe in it, or too afraid to say that they agree with it, based on, like, looking at, all these other men that have raised the topic and have got so much hate on hate on them for it. So yeah, I'm not saying that's the case, but just observing and trying to analyze, like, the results in that, it was just interesting to see that, like, it was only 30% of men that disagreed with the statement. What was I gonna say? There were a lot of men that said that sorry, go back to the Cover Club podcast. He actually he said that he did do, he put the question out there to a lot of poly women, and asked them, why do they think poly men only date white women, especially the successful ones. And they said, he said that most of them said it was because of colonialism. And then he said he disagrees with that, and he thinks that that's not really it's not relevant anymore. You can't blame colonialism. That's what he was saying. He goes, yeah, it might have explained, like, previous generations, but it's been so long, and now, like, we've moved on, so we can't exactly blame colonialism. Which is a fair point, but, like, there is like, one thing that I wanted to raise, and that's, like, well, let's take a look at it for a second. Like, if you look at Polynesian mythology, right? There's so many strong islander women figures, right? We have Bele, who's the volcano goddess that is well known. Everybody knows who Bele is, a Hawaiian goddess. And then you have Nafanua, who's the Samoan goddess, who is the goddess of war, or god of war. So it wasn't, and then you have Tila and Temawhenga, the twins, who, were the reason why we have the tattoos that we have now, and they were women. So we have all these, like, back in the day, these, like, mythologies, and a lot of the popular ones are based on women. So to me, it kind of showed that we were held in high regard in the Pacifica community, and, like, cut to when Christianity was introduced into into our islands, as well as, like, Western societal standards, that men should be the head of the family, that they should be the breadwinners, that they're the workers, that they provide for the family. But the women, they're inferior to the man. They have to do the cooking and the cleaning, raise the kids. They had to look after the house. And basically, like, the women had to serve the men. That was the mentality that was brought into our islands from from the Western culture. So looking at the history there, and that mentality that's carried on for generations, and I find that it's, even now, it's still instilled in our culture. Growing up, I don't know if you noticed this, cuz, but parents, like, are more focused on or prioritize the boys' career path and their sports than than on the girls. And this is, this was actually raised by my brother. I didn't notice this, but he brought it up. Anyway, so looking at that, unintentional or intentional, but, like, for us Pacifica girls, we were raised as to be a good housewife. Like, if you look back at it, like, the boys were always, like, at a training, footy training, and then footy games, and we had to, like, we were at home doing chores and looking after our younger siblings. So, like my point is like, oh, and from that, like, as well, so boys are always out there, you know, always active, whereas we're, you know, our roles that, like, you know, growing up, looking after the parents, looking, doing all the fails or chores, looking after our siblings, like, we're always indoors and we're not as
Mm-hmm.
active. um
Mm-hmm.
and like that was like, but the boys, you know, they're training, so they're always like, you know, they're physically fit. Like, they're fitter than us. um like, my point is, like, there's so many people pointing the finger and saying, like, you know, that poly women is like that YKTR podcast that you sent through, with
Yeah.
that guy saying that he was what was he
It's
saying
like, is that
about
a man?
HR? Sorry.
Yeah, the high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like when he'd see the girls, he'd be like, I'm pretty sure I can't remember which school it was, but he was just like when he'd see them, he'd be like, is that a man? I'm pretty sure he said something along those lines like,
Yeah.
is that a man?
Yeah. And I find, like, you know, that's like, he got a lot of hate for that as well.
He got
But it's like, you know, there's a reason why, like, these guys say what they say. Like, there are some that are just straight up honest.
Mm.
And I noticed that, like, a lot of people, and I see this from within my own circle, they won't say it outright, but that's what they're feeling. It's
Yeah.
very common what they're saying, but they just don't not saying it out because they know it's offensive.
Yeah.
Um, so, like, um, yeah, like, my point is, like, you know, there's people pointing the finger that poly women look like men, and, you know, why are most of them fat? You know, I think that, you know, I'm not denying that some of our women are, you know, overweight, but there are root causes of, you know, into a lot of our behavior. And so, like, I find it that it is from a systemic generational habit that, yes, in a way, it stemmed from colonialism, and Christian values and principles that were placed on our Polynesian culture. Um, yeah.
I
So,
think I get what you're saying, cuz it was funny you said that because one of my friends did mention how well if you think about it, most poly men, like you said, are ripped. They're built like rugby league players or union players or the ones you see on TV
mm,
and then you don't see that many Polynesian women that look like like
models.
that.
Yeah.
Like they in their minds they have like the stereotypical view of Polynesian women as big. We're stockier. Some of us are bigger than the men.
Mm,
But then I'm like, I get what they're saying with that, but I also look at it like, yeah, but when you think of other big Polynesian men, you have like the bouncers, you have the characters on TV. They only give them roles where they're playing scary, big, massive dudes. Like it's not just that those types, but I think they were saying it more like the majority of men, poly men that they see, especially here in Australia,
mm.
they look very, they're built different. Whereas the girls, the majority of girls, like you said, they don't look super active. They don't look like they get out much. But you're right. We had to stay home.
Yeah. And, um, like, going back to that Cover Club podcast, you know, I think his name is Will. um, like,
Is it
a
like the
lot
one with
of
the hair
people,
like slicked back? I'm trying to. I think I know who you're talking about because
yeah,
what was
he
that?
covers a lot of topics, but, well, like, one thing is that, like, you know, he does cop a lot of hate, and
Yeah.
he does have a lot of controversial opinions, and um but at the same time, like, you know, why, um it's so funny that our culture um is still doing that. It's still canceling people, or trying to silence people, you know what I mean, for having a
Mm,
different opinion. That's why we have all these topics under the rug in the first place.
yeah.
And, like, yeah, I get it. Like, you know, they, like, if you really look at it in a more open-minded perspective, like there are a few points, there are truths to what he's saying. I don't agree with all of them, but most of them, like if you really think about it, like that's coming from a man though. He's telling, like he's sort of saying, well, like this is why I feel,
Yeah.
a lot of us date white women.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, for us, we can sit here and say, yes, I admit that a lot of, there are some Islander women that are big. But when he says it, he gets attacked.
Yeah.
You know what
That's
I
true.
mean? But it's like, and that's particularly why I wanted to bring this topic up, is because like I like there's just so much division at the moment because of this topic.
Yeah.
And there's like too many people going in and hating rather than just like, take it back, listen, you can have a different opinion, but don't go in there and try and like, cancel this guy or silence him, and or all the other guys that say stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, opinions out there that are just like, I 100% don't agree, but like,
Because you're right,
I
because
would,
I've seen some of his stuff and I'm the same.
yeah, like, uh, at first, yes, my initial reaction is like I'm angry.
Me too. I thought that's why when you brought him up, I was like, oh.
But it's like, it's human. But then at the same
Yeah.
time, like take it in and then like sort of see, well, like what is he trying to say? And I ended up watching his whole episode, and like honestly, and this is another thing about our platform and why people need to be very careful, is that like, yeah, people go in and if they don't agree with something, they clip it
Yes. Just
and
that
then they
one bit.
share it. Yes, yeah. So now you have like, a thousand, like thousands of people hating on this guy based on the clip. But then when I went and watched the whole episode, they missed out all the context that came with that clip. And it was like, it wasn't as harsh as what he said. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, if you're going to edit it that way, like, it's going to be like, oh, like that's,
Yeah.
I can't believe he said that. But there's a lot of prefacing that he does in his episode, so he explains, that like, and he's aware of that, a lot of people like don't like his opinions. But I just think it's not fair that you would go off a clip rather than go and just watch the whole thing. And then, he does, like, he's a lot more fair than people think.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't like, for anybody to base like, their opinions of me on
From a
a
short clip.
snippet of what I'm saying.
So that's good, because I think you're right. I think I judge based mainly on the clips that I've seen, but I haven't watched a full episode to really understand the sort of
Mm.
message that they're trying to convey from his podcast. So I might give it a go. I might.
Another video I think he that went viral as well was when he said that poly women are fat. Like I looked, when I seen that, yeah, I got kind of triggered. But then when I watched the episode, like he does say, "Look, guys, let's be real. Like, most poly women are are fat." Um, and then like as much as I wish that wasn't true, like where's the lie?
I feel,
Where's
yeah,
the
you're
lie?
right, because I feel like if we said that, we wouldn't get as attacked
Hmm.
and crucified for it. So yeah, they are bigger women. Like we are
Yeah.
big and beautiful. So there's no lie. Where's the lie?
But and that's the thing. He also says, and that's not clipped or it didn't go viral as well. He believes that like Pacifica women are beautiful.
Mm.
Like where he goes like we're one of the most beautiful women in the world. But like let's be real. Most of Pacifica women are big or are fat. Maybe it's the choice of words. I don't know.
Yeah, I think so too.
uh,
It's his delivery, maybe, because I find that's what triggers me with his videos is his delivery of it. And I think you're right in the sense of like it's just hard truth sometimes.
yeah.
But I also feel like some of the things he does say could be delivered a bit differently. That's all.
Yeah, but that's looking at, like I said before, um he's somebody who's telling the truth, who's being realistic,
Yeah.
um rather than just saying what you want to hear. He's actually highlighting something that could is a problem,
Mm.
but bringing it to the surface so that maybe we could address it, maybe it might change.
Yeah.
But like that's the problem with islanders, is that once we don't like what someone says, it's like, that's it. I don't, you're a
Yes.
bad person. You know
Mm.
what I mean? And that's why we have these topics.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of these topics are thrown under the rug, like anything sexual, anything about like money and relationships, like all of that gets thrown under the rug, and like we're just supposed to just not ever address it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when someone does, it's like, yo, like nah, you need to go.
Yeah.
Like that needs, like for me, that needs to change. Like everyone's gonna just agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Like that's it. But yeah, be open to it. Like it might teach you something. Like for me, like I'm not skinny. Like I'm on the fat side. But like I understand that there is truth to what they're saying, and why they would gravitate towards white women, because they're for them, they're coming out of the islands, they're exposed to something new, or even the ones that are raised here, they're surrounded by women that are of other ethnicities. Of
Mm.
course they're gonna they have a lot more options now.
Mm.
So like for them, it's a lot more options for preference.
Yeah.
And, and yeah, like what you said about that was another one that was common response was, yes, the poly women remind them of their mom and that, and their sisters. But yeah, there's just so many reasons. Like
Mm.
it's never ending, the reasons
Yeah.
why. I mean, and I can't like, for me as a Pacifico woman, I'm with a non-islander,
Yeah.
and I never, it wasn't like it wasn't like I planned to not, I was attracted to a lot of Pacifico men, but like then this one came along and it's
Mm.
changed my life. Now I'm happily engaged.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I agree. At the same time, with the people who disagree with the statement, I understand. Like you love who you love,
Yeah.
but at the same time, like there are those factors into why you see a lot of these, successful poly men
Mm.
with white women.
I was going to ask something because that was one of the
Yeah.
questions that was raised as well. Because initially, when some of my friends heard about the topic and our question, our poll, they were like, "But what about the women?"
Mm,
And I was like, "What about
yeah.
it?" And they're like, you're asking all these questions about why do men only, poly men only do this, or why do poly men only do that. He's like, I've seen like a lot of them are like, I've seen plenty of poly girls with men who are not poly.
Mm.
So where does that come into play? Which was a good question. It was a good question that they had raised, because I was like, hang on, now that I think about it,
That's fair.
there are
That's
quite a
fair.
lot, even successful poly women are with men who are not poly. So then they're like, no one has an issue with that. That was I think the argument was just, you women have a lot of problems with men dating, white women or women who aren't polys, but a lot of poly women aren't with poly men, and no one cares. Like no one bats an eyelid, or no one gets, um, it's not as controversial as it is for the men.
Mm.
And they wanted to know why that was, and I was like, that's a great question. I'm trying to think of an answer.
Yeah. Yeah, that is fair. That is fair.
Hmm.
And I think that was raised as well. And um,
Like it's
what I
funny how
heard,
both of us are just sitting here like we're trying to come up with reasons.
Yeah, well, like what I heard, and this is coming from Poly Man, is that, and this was very controversial as well. They were saying that women in general, women in general date up, and men date down. But that was what he was saying is a logical uh reason.
For
um.
why?
So like he like he he would say that, you know, most women, not all women, most women are like, they're attracted when they're looking for a partner, especially a life partner. They're looking for someone that can provide. You wouldn't, like, a woman wouldn't date a man that has no money. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, if you're in the dating phase, you wouldn't, like, if you were on a date with someone that is broke, lives with his mom, um doesn't have a job, and then you have a man that has a job, has his own career, he has, you know, is independent. Like, the woman would always gravitate towards the man that can provide, because they're thinking about the future,
Yeah.
their future.
Okay.
So, but men, they would not date. Like, if you're looking at a woman that, you know, is not as independent and is not successful, but they will provide, they, you know, they wouldn't, yeah, that they would provide, do all the house, whatever, and then you have a woman that's successful, that's independent, that's, you know, that can look after herself and all that. They're more likely to go with the other one than the successful woman, because I don't know if that he didn't say, but to me it's like, is it because you're threatened by that? Because, you know, man feels they need to be the alpha, and then if they have an alpha woman, they're scared that, you know, it'll demasculate them,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
That does make sense.
So that was, yeah. So to ask your question, to answer your question, going off that guy's logical, um, you know, reason for this, I would say, like, you know, yeah, maybe because, like, a lot of poly women now are looking for that security, and, you know, maybe because, like, a lot of the white guys are a lot more successful.
I get what you're saying.
For me personally,
Yeah,
uh,
because we are with a
for me
Palangi guy.
personally,
Well, it's considered. We obviously know he's you know not white, but he's considered Palangi.
yeah, for me personally, like, there were a lot of times when I wanted to date an islander, but it's like, in my case, they were already looking at other ethnicities. So basically, for me, it was like, I got to a point where I was like, you know what, like, I'm just gonna work on myself. I'm not gonna, you know, worry about partners or whatever, blah blah blah. And then it just so happened that, you know, um, that this guy was interested, and I, to me, I was just so surprised that, you know, another person of another race is interested in me. So, like, you know, it goes back to my high school days with my insecurities, and then, you know, you have, like, someone, like, I thought the only person, like, the only partner that I would have is an islander, but that was already hard to get. But then to actually, like, and this is, like, really really shallow, but I'm being honest, like, to score someone that's from another race, like, I was just like, oh wow, you know, like, there was just so many, like, bonuses for
Yeah,
me.
all the boxes.
Yeah. So I was like, at the same time, it was like, um it was just, for me, it was just shocking that, you know, someone from another race was interested in
Yeah.
me and gave me the attention, and wanted to date me. So, like, yeah, everything, like, after that was just like, it hit off. But yeah, I don't know if subconsciously a lot of us poly women are burned by, you know, some poly men preferring white women or other ethnicities over us, and that's why now we're looking elsewhere as well. But I don't know.
That probably leads into your your other question, because where you're like, do you think it's changing now? Like, not just with us women, but with the men.
I think it is. And like we saw in the poll results as well, like it's pretty balanced, 50-50. Also, like, actually, I'll bring up this interesting study that I found. So apparently, and this isn't Pacifica related. This is in the States. Apparently, the law to legalize marriage between an interracial couple was only passed in the year 2000 across all 50 states. So Alabama was the last state to pass the law to legalize interracial marriage, and in that year, 2000.
Jeez.
So it's so recent, like, to like at the same time, right? A lot of our families, especially in the ones that living in the Western countries, we started dating outside of our race, which resulted in so many afagasis, like half castes, of our generation, and even more so in the next generations. It's become normalized globally that to have interracial relationships. Like, if anything, these days it's pretty rare now to find a full Samoan or a full Tongan, full Maori, full Cook Islander. You know what I mean? Most of us are all mixed, and because of that, I'm finding that these younger generations, and this is probably why, because I'm looking at the polls as well, and a lot of the people that disagreed with the statement were also very young. Yeah, so the people, like, for me, I'm finding that the younger generations are now bringing it back full circle. So now, the poly men, they want to date poly women now. Whereas I'm looking at, my generation and upwards, it was a lot of us that were out, like, looking outside of our own culture. And then not sure if it's like a psychological thing that, like, people are now sort of looking at, there's too many, like, there's so many of us that are mixed, like, we need to preserve like like our blood. Yeah. I mean, there's that song, what's that song, by Tanel Island King, Island King? No. Oh,
yeah.
Anyway, that just
No,
came.
it didn't. I was just like, please don't sing that, because I'm an island boy.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, sing that song.
Oh no, you've heard it, cuz. Like, here. Can
Yeah.
you hear it?
Oh, yes, I've heard it. I literally see that, but I'm like, yes, I've heard it.
Oh yeah, and here, if it's you he loves, then ain't no one above you. We're a dying breed, and I'm just trying to preserve our culture and bloodline. Yeah.
Interesting. That was cool. I didn't even do that.
Yeah, so like I'm finding that a lot of the younger ones are aware of that. So I don't know if that's sort of bringing back the whole, dating, coming back to dating each, within your own race. Yeah. Social media as well, because it's such a big part of our lives. Many islanders are more concerned about the way they look now than ever before. In saying that, like, there's a huge rise in numbers of, polys hitting the gym now. You see that on like TikTok and Instagram. In saying that, like, look at Instagram, TikTok, you see so many, like, now you see so many beautiful poly women, and they're all now prioritizing their appearance. Like, they're just, a lot of them, like, just gorgeous. You just see so many of them. And that's just the physical appeal side of things. Like the other aspect is like, the times are changing. Our generation of parents are different to the ones before. We're less strict and we're more
Yeah,
open-minded now. So like poly women these days, we have a lot more freedom than poly women in previous
yeah,
generations. So I think that's changing as well. The other the other factor to note as well, why oh no, it's just slipping.
that's okay.
um, oh yeah, it's like another factor of why poly men date white women is when I don't know if you experienced this or if you heard this, but a lot of our parents, especially the ones from the islands, they say to their kids, "Hey, go find yourself
Mm-hmm.
a palangi." Yeah. So like that also was ingrained in a lot of our young ones to, well, now
Yeah,
we're old, but but in our generation we were always sort of like pushed to go out there and be with the
yeah,
palangi. um so I don't know if, yeah.
yeah. That could be a
I
contributing factor,
remember,
though.
yeah, and probably like as well, and it ties into what you said about like Falabi
Mm-hmm.
Lovies. Like it's like, if you're like, go date a palangi so we don't have to
Yeah,
deal with that shit. But yeah, I think it's changing, and I think that that's what like our results
yeah,
showed as well. In our in the polls that we put up, and it's, yeah, it's interesting. Like I think that question that was raised is probably discussed amongst a lot of, well, my generation
mm-hmm.
and up. And that's why like there's a lot of division and a lot of like, sort of poly men versus poly women. um Whereas the younger ones are like, hold up, like that's not true, like I'm not I love poly women, or I
Yeah,
love poly men, like that, like I don't
mm.
agree with that. And so you can't ask why, because in the I
Yeah.
don't agree. Yeah. Yeah, definitely
I
think
think
that
it's
it's
absolutely
changing. What
changing.
about you,
I
cuz?
feel like I think it was different for me. Like I didn't really have a preference. Um,
Mm.
so I date who I like and kind of stuff like that. But I absolutely feel like it is changing. Like especially with the younger guys, like that Jerome Luai from Penrith Panthers and that Bizarre. Like they both were with brown women, gorgeous poly women.
Mm.
Um, and there's heaps of a lot of the people I work with or the people that I know, even friends, um, we're noticing a big difference where it's not just
Yeah.
um, Balingi women. It's a lot of them are sort of gravitating um, towards island girls again. And I think you're right. I think a massive change for us women is we actually want to change our appearance, not to like conform or anything, but we want to feel good now. We're at the point now where
Yeah.
we're just like, you know what? Men have been able to, go to trading, go to this, go to that, have more freedom. And I think that's why, as well, us mums, island mums, we're very different with how we raise our children, especially the girls.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking because I'm a girl mum, but it's very different because I want her to understand that you can choose whatever you want to choose. If you want to do footy, you want to do this, you want to do that. There will be that sort of level of support that there was for the boys in our families, not just for the
Yeah.
boys. It'll be even and equal for the girls. And
Yeah.
like us girls, we were so used to being at home where we're told we have to stay home.
Yeah.
And I don't think it built a lot of confidence in us girls. And I think that also contributed to the boys going towards different nashes because they obviously had more freedom. Like I'm pretty sure I knew heaps of Balingan girls who were allowed to go out and go on dates and see boys and this and that. But the island girls were told no, like you can feel more home and your brothers go do
Hmm.
this and do that. Whereas the reason why I think it's changing is because us island girls don't want that for our kids. We don't want our kids to
Yeah.
ever feel like they're stuck at home, or they don't have as much freedom as someone just based on their gender. So I think that
Mm.
plays a huge role into why it's changing, and also that, like you said, because the whole we want to look and feel good now. We want to
Mm.
we want to be more independent and more free to do what we want to do, the way boys were able to do whatever they wanted to do. And I find as well that the girls who
Yeah.
take care of themselves, the girls who take time to, focus on themselves and be independent, the island guys are like, oh, I really like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that in her. So I think that that's a good reason as well. I think there's so many reasons. Like it's never ending, like you said, Kaz. But I feel like it is changing because we're changing. Like us girls are changing, and we're making sure our future girls know that they can change too.
Yeah. No. And it's funny, like it was a good point that you brought up as well with the, we also want to feel good as well. Um, like as mentioned before, like we grew up sort of always having to stay at home, look after our siblings, or kids, nephews and nieces, um and having to do the chores for hours at home and all that. And because I find that that Samoa way, or like that traditional islander way is phasing out slowly, and we're all like sort of becoming more adapted to Western culture as well. So it's freeing up that you know um that space for us girls to now go out there and find what um like what more can we do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's now like sort of opening up that question, like what about my career, like not just the boys but what
Mhm.
about me?
Mhm.
And with the with internet as well, like that's just opened up so many doors for a lot of us. And I'm
Yeah.
finding a lot of us Pacifica women are now like, I want to do this, I want to do that. Like it's sad that in the Western culture, I find that female rights, women's rights were already sort of um I wouldn't say 100%, but they got like the white women, they got their rights way earlier than we did. We're only just now
Mhm.
coming into a time where that's acceptable. That I don't know if it's due to like the economic status that we're in right now, where we have to work anyway. Like we don't have that option to be a stay-at-home mom. We don't have that option to
Yeah.
stay home and look after the kids. Like so now parents are like, we need all the money that we can get,
Mhm.
so you guys go out there and work as well, like and now it's sort of opening up, okay, well girls can go to uni, can get a successful job, they can start businesses. Like I'm seeing so many Pacifica women that are just coming up now, so many talents, so
Yeah.
many like uh entrepreneurs as well, like they're all starting businesses while and they have kids. Like
Yeah.
that sort of female empowerment is only think it's fresh within the Pacifica community, and it's so beautiful to see. And I think that like that's what's changing nowadays. We don't have that mentality anymore where it's like um poly men versus poly women. And
Yeah.
poly, like us, I think for us it's like we're more focused on ourselves now than we are with the dating scene. I don't think that that's an important thing anymore. It's
Mm.
normal for everyone to date outside of their race now. Like that's been normalized now. So the fact that this topic is still coming up these days is
Yeah.
interesting.
Mhm.
But that's what I loved about the poll that we did, was it showed that nobody cares. Like
Yeah.
why are we arguing now? Like no one cares about that. Well, we're all like, yeah, poly men are dating white women, yeah. But we're also looking elsewhere as well. It's not
Yeah.
like, we're not doing it on purpose. We're not doing it out of
Yeah.
spite. It's just like we're now finally, have the courage and empowering ourselves to step out and get into
Yeah.
to the workforce or get into starting our own
Yeah.
businesses and that. So now we're, as much as they were, we're also now exposed to other ethnicities because now we're coming out of the
Yeah.
house. So
Yeah.
now,
It's everything that we were like that was in our comfort
yeah,
zone.
yeah. So
Yeah.
now, like, we're seeing what they're seeing. Like, we're now, sort of experiencing what they were experiencing, and now we're sort of like, oh, okay, yeah. Well, I'm not just interested in like I've like that guy's attractive and he's not Islander. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's where the shift is in our culture. Um, so yeah, overall, I think that why do poly men, especially successful ones, only date women? I don't think that's a valid question anymore in this time and age.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, to just like I don't think we should like that topic should be a thing to fight over anymore. So many people are going in like, from an emotional state and just they're so
Yeah.
aggressive. It's like
Yeah.
it's funny because like you're not seeing them, but you can picture them.
Yeah. Because based on how violent they are in their comments, you're just like, you need to calm down.
Yeah.
Wait, look at my little man.
Nah, the other thing that's changing is parenting as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Like I think we're all learning now. What the good things were that our parents taught us, and
100%.
what we can, do differently from what,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a learning curve. And I think that everything is just shifting now. Everything is changing. I love that our Pacifica women are out there now getting their,
The recognition that we always were meant to get.
yeah, nails done,
Hmm.
lashes done. So many are into the like in those businesses as
Yeah.
well. Hairstylists, yeah, a whole bunch of them.
Mm.
But yeah, like that stereotype of, poly women looking, like men, that ain't like that's not how like where I think that is now fizzling out that stereotype. So I'm happy because that's one of like, one of the things that we try to do with our podcast is try and break these
Yeah.
stereotypes and look just, look how people up on TikTok, like, social media now is open to everybody.
Hmm.
So now, yeah, there's like, so many of us that are just like gorgeous.
It's good. I feel like it's time. That was done
Yeah.
ages ago. So,
I'm loving the confidence as well.
hmm like we're all pretty much glowing.
Yeah.
Well, not all of us, obviously, but like we're a lot more ahead than we were when we were like back in the day.
But yeah, that was interesting. That was
That was really
really
interesting.
cool
I
to,
was a little nervous,
yeah.
but now I'm just like, whew.
I think, well, you know what's funny? Well, like, cause I went in and I was like, I had my notes for like, the why, the why question.
Yeah.
And then when I saw the results from the polls, I was like, oh, bro, I gotta change up my notes here.
Just like, okay, cross.
Let me research something else now.
Let's skip the topic now.
But
No, it's really
yeah,
good.
there's another beautiful thing is that we surprise each other.
We really do. Because I was honestly, because I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised by your response, like your opinion at the time when we were doing the polls and everything. I was like, oh, this is gonna be interesting.
Yeah, like the fact that I agree,
Yeah.
but I'm dating a
Yeah.
Um,
Like not in a bad way. But it was just like a very interesting. Like that's all I'm saying. Like very
to be honest,
interesting.
my agreement to the statement was based on my insecurities when I was younger.
Fair.
And that was because the islanders that I did see, they weren't interested in any of us Pacifica girls at school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying your opinion's wrong, cuz you have a right to your opinion. It's not a wrong one. No one's sort of
Oh no,
yeah,
that's all right. I
no
didn't
one's
take it
sort of
that way.
opinion on it is wrong. I found it so interesting because I had no idea. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, no, no, I didn't take what you said that way. But yeah, like exactly what you said. Like, there's no right or wrong answer. And that's what I find a lot of our responses are also like it's all different because it's based on our emotional
Yeah.
upbringing, our insecurities, and that. So it skewers a lot of the our responses. Um, so like yeah, there is no right or wrong answer, but it's interesting that it's changing,
Mm.
and that's the main thing. Yeah.
It was great.
But I really enjoyed
I
this
loved it.
topic, and I enjoyed the interactive polls
Yes,
as well on Instagram, and yeah, it was really
really
cool.
awesome. I'm like so happy with that. I'm so happy people
Yeah.
responded. I was going to be like, because I thought we were going to get a lot of negative reactions or anything like that, which obviously we're prepared
Mm,
for. Like you don't do podcasts without knowing you're going to get a couple of not so happy campers, but it was really good reading
mm.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it was and very surprising, especially like even the within our own circle and asking family and
Yeah.
friends as well. It was some of those answers were very interesting as
Mm.
well. Um, got to learn more about them
Yeah.
as well.
Like a bond.
It's like, oh, actually, before I end this, there was one brother that raised something so important. And this is why I find like having these open discussions is so important, because when I asked him that question and we were like and he was giving me his responses and that um and then we kind of like had our own little discussion about why that is. And then he said like he never, like, to him growing up, he never realized what, like, he never looked at the Pacifica women's perspective on it.
Mhm.
For example, with the growing up and the parents always focusing on the boy's career, not the girls, and that in a way, because he said he never really clicked, but now that he's looking back, he realized, like, he's noticed that, yeah, like I was more the second parent. I had to look after
Yeah.
kids and learn how to cook and all of that. And he said like it wasn't until we brought this topic out and started talking about it that he learned about, like, you know um the struggles that us Pacifica women go
Yeah.
through, or girls go through. And it's given him a lot.
Like a different.
I don't know, it's taken his respect for Pacifica women to another level,
Mm.
which was very, very interesting as well. A result that came out from this. So I
Yeah.
was like,
Like it was like a different
yeah,
perspective. They're just like, oh crap. Oh man.
yeah,
That's so
yeah.
cool, Kaz. Well, ask them now.
Yeah, it was a really cool conversation, and that's what it's all
Yeah.
about. I think, like, yeah, it might be a controversial question, but like it's interesting if you're open minded in that, just to talk it
Yeah.
out and actually respect each other's responses, and that it might teach you something.
100%. Like you can agree to disagree. That's yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But that was really cool. I had a lot of fun
Yeah,
doing
I knew you would.
that. It's gonna be
Yeah.
hard. It's gonna be
Yeah.
hard to top it next week. The next.
Yeah. I'm trying to like think now. I'm like, what am I gonna do now?
But yeah, thank you to everyone that sent in their responses and also voted. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it, and yeah, and to all those that are were triggered by the question. If not from here, from other platforms that are talked
Yeah.
about it, like, times are changing now, and that's not the case.
Yeah.
To our Pacifica
Mm.
women, like, keep doing what you're doing. Like, I'm just loving the change in both poly men and poly women.
Yeah.
And yeah, um it's our time. It's our time, Pacifica people as a whole. It's our time now to show the world what our potentials are. And
Mm.
yeah, I'll end it with that. Did you want to add anything, Cuz?
No, I think I'm just everything you said was pretty spot on and pretty perfect. I just think I'm loving
Yeah.
the shift from being so confined and super isolated to now us being able to sort of it's very
Mm,
freeing um, for not just like I'm not trying to downplay the guys, but I feel like I'm a bit more biased towards the girls because I am one, but also because we were very confined to you know our homes and everything like that. That now that we are aware of, you know, we do have a say, we do have a voice, we do have options, we do have the right to have a
Mm.
choice. We can now, like, it's just opened the door to a whole another level for us as girls and our future girls. So I think that's just, I love to see that, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, me too. So yeah, stop fighting.
Just be fellow funny, man.
Yeah, and lift each other up. That's all it is. Lift each other up because
Pretty much.
yeah, now is time for Pacifica people, and yeah, we are coming up. Um,
Hmm.
and I will end it at that. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank you
Also,
so
let us
much.
know. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter.
TikTok,
Um,
YouTube.
please subscribe to our YouTube. um yeah we yeah we started a new channel. If you didn't realize, we started a new channel, so we're not on Logo Smith Media anymore. We decided to create our own. So yeah, we're trying at the moment to build up the subscribers so we can give you a lot more of these kind of content. um our podcast is also available to listen on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and all those other platforms out there. Um, yeah. Uh, um, Reach out to us on any of those platforms if you have a topic in mind as well you would like us to discuss. Let us know your
That'll
thoughts
be good.
about this as well. The statement and the why question around polymen dating white women. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Stay safe and stay positive.
Yeah. See you in the next episode.
Yes. Bye.